Welcome to How We Love, the podcast that explores the beautiful, tangled, sometimes laugh out loud, sometimes break your heart in a million ways, truths of human connection. I'm Robin Lane, your host and psychotherapist, and someone who's seen love in all its wildest forms. Today, in our inaugural episode, you'll meet a guest whose devotion redefines what it means to love deeply. A man who became both partner and caretaker, yet never lost himself in the process. His story is nothing short of extraordinary. It's my great honor to welcome the man known in the fashion industry as a fashion guru, but who I know as a man who was the most committed of husbands to his husband. Welcome, Montgomery Frazier.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the kind words, and yeah, it's everything you said is what I've been going through. It'll be 4 months now since my husband Ben passed away, um, coming up soon. So still raw, very
Of
raw.
course, of course. But I'd like to start with the backstory before you met Ben, because you were known as a celebrity fashion stylist, an image guru. Could you tell us what that is? Because I know you worked with lots of celebrities, but I really have no idea what a celebrity fashion stylist is.
Well, when I started my career in that as the fashion director of MTV, um, which I had landed a job because I was creative director for this company in Soho called Parachute, which was very innovative and very fashion forward, and we dressed then upcoming celebrities like Madonna and Duran Duran and Cher and a lot of other luminaries. And then from there, I went to MTV. I was asked by this new British VJ at the time called Downtown Julie Brown, and she had asked me to come to on board to help her with her fashion, and she was quite fabulous. So I became the fashion director of MTV for 8 years, and
And what exactly is a fashion director?
I dressed everyone who needed to be dressed. Basically, I merged fashion and music together on that platform, which was then very revolutionary and innovative. Now it's, old hat, but back then it was everybody wanted their MTV. That was their logo. I want my MTV. And Billy Idol, everyone was doing that. So I became the fashion director, and I would have to dress anybody who needed. I would do the award ceremonies. I launched shows like Remote Control, House of Style. I launched Club MTV and actually became the on-air fashion commentator, where I would present fashion designers, etc., in choreographed routines by Joffrey Ballet choreographer Edward Morgan, and then I would dress anybody who needed to have style, with celebrities. So I had a lot of work to do at the
What
time.
does that mean? Does that mean that you have to go out to different designers to find the clothing? Is that what that entails, or did you create the clothes them? I don't
Well,
really understand.
we didn't really create any of the clothes. We sourced from new designers at the time, like Dolce Gabbana, Pat Field, Armani, um, um, just to name a few that we would, get clothes in. Nicole Miller. We launched, a lot of designers. We I had what we called a revolving door policy where they would loan me samples. I dressed Julie in them, then we'd return them, and then we'd credit them on whatever shows they would be in. So that was very successful, and I bridged fashion and music together.
Well, like that, but you were one of the original people to start doing that. Can you tell me how does that work?
What do you mean? How does it work?
Well, I mean, how do you bridge fashion and music?
Well, before none of the VJs had any fashion style. They wore T-shirts and jeans. I literally would go in and call designers that I had worked with, or that I knew that were publicists that say, "Oh, we have a new designer, Vivian Westwood." They would love to dress Downtown Julie Brown. So I would go in, I would select things that I thought would look amazing on Julie, and then we'd dress her in them, and then we'd return them. So it was a pretty stable and very kind of circular concept where we borrow the clothes, we dress the celebrities, and we return them. They get credited, and everybody gets exposure.
Did you go to school for this?
No, it's not something really. It was something I had a look when I was hired in Soho because I looked a certain way. And, fashion has always been about they hire people that represent the brand. So at the time, I was very trendy looking. I was kind of like a little Billy Idol wannabe. And I got hired at Parachute, this clothing company in Soho, because I had a very good look, I mean, at the time. Um, and so I progressed from assistant manager to creative director, and I was afforded the opportunity to work with legends like Mario Testino and David LaChapelle, and people like that were on the cutting edge at the time, and now they're kind of like legendary. So I was styling, a lot of styling. I would do all the Parachute ads. We do music video. We would do fashion videos. Then I got into music videos as well too. So it was a natural segue for me.
Wow. That's very, very impressive. So you've just had a natural artistic bent.
I just had a flair, some people either have it or they don't. I think you can acquire it, but I think that style is innate and fashion is transitory.
Mm.
Um, but I had a particular look which apparently was very appealing at the time, and I modeled myself after like a Bowie slash a retro kind of 1950s Bowie kind of character.
You mean David Bowie?
Yeah,
Oh,
he was like one of my idols. So I really emulated that look, with a thin white Duke and all that. I mean, you have to kind of know a little bit about David Bowie to understand that reference, but it was, I kind of, that's who I patterned myself after was David Bowie. So more, not so much with the makeup, but more about just the flair and the sort of the 70s vibe and, with kind of like the very white, it was a look that I kind of acquired and I made it a hybrid. To suit myself. So,
it sounds wonderful. Let me ask you, what was your love life like back then?
I've always been in relationships. I've always, since I came to New York, because I came to New York during a very precarious time, which was called the beginning of the AIDS crisis. So when you come to
That
New
was
York,
what, the 80s, 1980?
yeah, came here in 82.
Hmm.
And that was when things were starting to get hot with the AIDS. People were starting to get it, and people didn't know what it was. And so I was very afraid of really just being promiscuous. So I kind of partnered myself with boyfriends for a long time. I was a serial monogamist.
Very, very smart.
Well, it just was my DNA. And so I guess that's why I'm still alive.
Yeah.
And but I'm yeah. So that was why
So with all those relationships, was there was nothing ever that was as profound as when you met Ben?
I had a 14-year relationship, but it was nothing to the extent of Ben. Ben was somebody I met, my husband, Ben Mindish. He was just passed away, as I said, 4 months ago. But when I met him, I met him just randomly at this place called the Townhouse, and which I live now a few blocks from, which is
So
so
do I. So
Oh,
do I.
I know. I think we live around the corner from you.
Yes.
So I met him at this it's a quintessential, gentleman's piano bar where people like to go and sing, show tunes and all that. And then a lot of young boys meet, older gentlemen. I was kind of in between the young boy and the gentleman. So I was a little in between. But I met Ben there and he courted me for 2 months. I'm sorry, 2 years, 2 months.
So what do you
Took a
mean two
year.
years? Why did it take 2 years?
Because I just gotten out of a relationship and I didn't really want to jump into something. So when he
What
asked me to,
what did What did you think of him when you first met him? Was he your
Oh
type?
God, he was impeccable. Ben was exquisite. I mean, he looked like an Italian viscount,
Oh my.
and he was extremely. He had beautiful skin. He had uh, platinum hair, but I found out he dyed his hair platinum or bleached it platinum, and he was always dressed so sartorially, and I really appreciated that because I'm a bit of a dandy myself, but he was just impeccable. I mean,
Do you
between the
remember what he
jewelry,
was wearing the first time you met him?
I do. He was wearing a pale gray pinstripe double-breasted suit.
I can't believe you remember that.
I do. I remember it like it was yesterday. I see him exactly in the same place, and I go to the townhouse now and I see him there in my mind. Um, and I was wearing a chocolate brown YSL suit, which is not a very common looking suit. You know, chocolate brown is not everybody's cup of tea, but apparently we saw each other, and um,
Was
it
that the
we
first thing you noticed about him, his clothes?
well, he's incredibly handsome too.
Ah,
I mean, he was such a gentleman. You know, and in a place like that, it's rare to find a gentleman because they call it a gentleman's club, but it's really there are a lot of people that go there that are inappropriate and they just are trolling.
I
This
mean, the swingers.
I don't know what they're called. I don't know what they call them nowadays. I just all called them trolls. Anyway, but I was not there to pick up a troll. I saw this magnificent jewel named Ben Mindish, and I it took me 2 years to say yes, but I did finally. And we were in the company of my dear friend Consuelo, and she was there when he proposed to me, and he gave me this beautiful simple Hermes ring that was so chic that we saw when we were just kind of, walking on Madison one day. And I said, "Oh, I love this. It's so simple. I love simple things. I'm not a big jewelry person, but Ben sold all the fine jewelry at Saks. So for him to buy something simple for me was like almost like it was very away from his, uh, you know, anyway, it was
How,
just
how did he propose?
well, we were at dinner with my friend Consuelo. We went to this place called Bistro Chat Noir, which was a very hot place on the Upper East Side, on East 60. And we were just sitting at a table as we often did. And Ben was there, and he just pulled out this ring, and he said, Would you marry me?" I was shocked. First of all, I never thought I'd get married as a gay man because I never really wanted to, because I never really found anybody I'd want to marry. But it took me 5 seconds and I said yes. Was I in love with him at the time? I don't think I was in love with him at the time, but I liked him a lot.
And you liked the ring.
No, no, it wasn't the
I'm
ring.
kidding you.
The
I'm
ring
kidding
was,
you.
yeah, but the ring was like, it wasn't like an expensive. It was a nice looking Hermes ring, but it wasn't like super expensive. It was very simple. I'm wearing it
So why
now
did you say yes?
because I liked him. I thought, I think I could have a really nice life with this man. And he's not boring. He never once bored me. And he was always fun. And I found out that we could be like kids together. Like we were just two peas in a pod. And I really needed somebody to help me, to bring out the innocence in me again. Because sometimes, when you live in New York, you get very jaded, right? And I wanted that sort of simple but yet beautiful, glamorous life that where you don't have to pretend to be anything, and we didn't compete with each other. I respected his style, and he respected my style, and we just had a great life.
What was the wedding like?
Oh my God, the wedding was set on a lake in Upper St. Regis in the Adirondacks, and Consuelo Vanderbilt is a dear friend of mine. She hosted it.
Is
And
that the Vanderbilt from the Vanderbilts?
yeah, yeah.
Oh boy.
It's a
Hey,
summer camp, like 17 bedroom summer camp with its own guest pagoda, and it's set in the Japanese style pagoda on the outside, but in the inside it's very Teddy Roosevelt. So it was a really fabulous place, and there was only 30 people there because it was a destination and it was very private. This was a family owned compound. It wasn't like, so she had offered to do this, and I thought at the time, wow, this is cool. And Ben just we had just a blast. My friend, who's a designer, Milan, designed our outfits that replicated cranes on a sunset lake. So it
What
was
does that mean, cranes on a sunset?
cranes, like the birds, the
What does that
cranes.
mean in terms of color?
Well, like burnt orange, like a sunset colors with a blue sky. So it was like blue and burnt orange, contrasting outfits and silk, and it was so magnificent. And we got married outside of a pagoda that they got at the World's Fair in 1932. I think it was New York, and so it was really quite magical. And everybody had a blast that weekend. So that's how we got married.
Did you have a honeymoon?
I took him to Switzerland.
Ah,
I had won a trip at the Soho, what is that? The Soho House. I won a trip to go to the La Prairie Spa. Um, and it was like their 50th anniversary or whatever it was. And so I took Ben. So we had a magnificent time. And yeah, it was magical.
and
And
when did you fall in love with him?
I fell in love with him, I think the more I was with him, the more I just enjoyed. It wasn't really a time or a day, it just happened. And I always say to people, don't close your heart to people because maybe they're not your type, but if you like them and if you think, wow, you know, give them a chance at least. And I'm glad I gave Ben a chance. It was the best decision I ever made because I always kind of missed the ball with the boyfriend thing. Something always was a little off, or you know. So I finally got it. I got it right.
You got it right. And you were married for how long when Ben got ill?
We were married for 8 years total, but we were together for 15. And
Oh,
then gay marriage wasn't. I don't remember when gay marriage was, but we got
so
married
you were
in,
together for 15 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
15
yeah.
years. But 7 of those years was COVID and then dementia. So I I'm a very committed person when I commit, and I took an oath of marriage seriously, and I said, okay, we're going to get through this. COVID was like one thing I had to protect him from because he was 82 years old, or when I met him, he was a lot younger. But when he got diagnosed, yeah, I think he was like 80 years old. He would have been 83 in March. Um,
What were the first signs?
The first signs were, I think for me, the first signs were he couldn't remember lines. When during COVID, I was getting him. I got him an agent because he had a really great deep voice. He was like talk like this. He's from the Bronx, so he would talk like that, right? And he was like a contradiction because he looked so incredibly fastidious, but he was such a guy. You know, he wasn't like, oh my God, but he wasn't like me. He wasn't a twink like me. I'm an old twink, right? I'm an old hair boy twink. Anyway, but he was such a contradiction. So I got him an agent for his voice because he really wanted to do voiceovers after he quit sax. We needed to make some money because neither one of us were working at the time, um, because of COVID. I mean, I was still working at Soho Muse with Consuelo, but Soho Muse was this platform for creative. So I was kind of working at home. But at one point, I had to quit because I was taking care of Ben too much. You know,
So
during
it was,
COVID, I had.
let me just interrupt you for a second. So he wasn't able to remember lines he was supposed to do as an actor?
Yeah, when you get scripts, he had a good look, so I got him really. Consuelo actually got him a really good agent, so because he had a really good look, he was very elegant, very handsome, and he looked like he could have been on The Sopranos, or he could have looked like he could have been in an Italian villa somewhere. So he had a very good look and he had a really deep voice, so he got a lot of casting requests, but he'd get scripts. And at the first, he'd do the reading, and then maybe 3 times in, he couldn't remember the scripts. So that was the first sign.
What
The
did you
second,
think? Did you think it was anything?
no, I just thought that he wasn't good at remembering scripts.
Uh-huh.
But fast forward, maybe a few months later, he started seeing little girls in the apartment, faceless girls having their hair combed. And I thought, well, that's weird. Um, I thought the apartment was haunted. So I saged it and all that. Well, so we took him to a neurologist at Langone, and they did an MRI on him, and they said he had Lewy body dementia.
Did you know what that was?
I had no idea. It sounded harmless to me. I said, "Oh, it sounds harmless." I actually said that. I said, "Well, that sounds harmless." Not once did the neurologist prep us for what was to come or to inform us that this was extremely progressive and let's try to get ahead of it. Not once. So she prescribes something and says, "We'll see you in 6 months." Well, in 6 months in the life of somebody with Lewy body dementia is like it's like an accelerate. You might as well go from 0 to 100. Didn't the pills didn't work, and I said we got to go back, and so I kept emailing the neurologist saying I don't think these are working. So we went back in, and it was just a lot of stuff that was happening. He started forgetting, hiding things, and forgetting his keys, or everything was hiding things. He was always hiding his wallets or his phone. I think his phone is still in the apartment now. I can't find it even after I canceled the thing. But oh God, there was so much. It was like an avalanche crashed in on me. A crash course in everything. Yeah, it was a lot. But I loved him, and the more he got sick, the more I knew that I'm never going to give up on you. I'm never going to leave you. I'm not going to just you know namby pamby, pass him off on somebody. Not once did I think, let's put you in a home or anything. I didn't say, I'm going to take care of you. That's how I was.
So just tell me, how did you manage all this?
Well, there was nobody else to do it. So how was I supposed to? It's either
I
that
don't know.
you sink or swim. And I'm not one for giving up. Um, I maneuvered and navigated all the landmines that healthcare between legality. I couldn't even talk on his behalf to any of the banks or any of the hospitals because you have to be well, even if you're legally married, you have to be legally a proxy or healthcare power of attorney. Those were things I had to learn. All that I had to learn. I had to find out all his bank accounts, where everything was, because he couldn't remember how to pay bills from after a while. Just everything started crashing, and Ben started becoming very incapacitated mentally. Um, Physically, he was shuffling, and he could barely walk one year. And then finally, they found out that they prescribed him um, a drug for Parkinson's, which the next day he could walk. So my point of saying that is that diagnosis is extremely important, that they get the right thing. And we didn't know he had diabetes either for a year. So a lot of time was wasted that I could have kept him alive had I have known all this stuff. But you're at the mercy of the healthcare system. You're at the mercy of the insurance companies, and you're at the mercy of everybody who basically has their hand out when you need the help, when you need help.
Wow. And when did he die?
Um, he died February the 22nd of this year.
At home?
No, he died at the Mary Manning Walsh Rehab Facility.
Yes, I know that facility.
It's across from Sotheby's.
Yeah.
And I think by the time,
How long was he there?
not that long. He went out on a Friday. He died on the next Saturday.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So by the time he had gotten to that facility, he had pretty much wreaked. He got really ill at this facility called Fairview in Queens, and he got sepsis, E. coli, and pneumonia, and
Oh my Lord.
that really sealed his fate. And every day I kept screaming at these people to try to, because it was a filthy facility. I was always something. It was in the middle of the winter, and there was drafts in the. No wonder he got pneumonia. There was drafts in the window, and I had to have them finally move him because I said he's going to catch pneumonia. Well, he did. Anyway, I haven't really spoken about this um, because it's just really painful. So Um,
I understand. I completely get it. I understand. So, subsequent to that, you have now started a fashion line using both your names. Could you describe the name of it and what
well, I actually
and
did it
your
when Ben was.
amazing resilience?
I actually did it because I was freaking out, going, "We need to make money. We've been living off your 401k since you quit Saks, and it's been now 7 years that we were living off of that." And I said, I've got to make money at home. But as a caregiver, you literally are 24/7 work attending to your loved one. So I would have to bop up and down, bop up and down, bop up. I was never stopping. I aged 10 years in those 4 years. But a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you do a GoFund?" Well, that I did that, and I raised some money for that, which was great, so I could pay off bills and a lot of stuff because the bills were mounting. And as you can imagine, every trip to the hospital costs. It's like every time he was in the hospital, it was like $100,000,
Oh my gosh.
and that's so you add that up, it's a lot. So I had to devise a way to make money at home. So a friend of mine, Dr. Victor, he said, "Why don't you create an e-commerce site? You're a fashion person." And I said, "I don't know anything about e-commerce." Well, I learned, just like I learned everything else. I learned how to navigate e-commerce. I put together an e-commerce luxury athleisure lifestyle brand called Benmo 2.0. And that
Benmo 2.0.
Benmo to BEN/MO/2.0, and that represented Ben and Montgomery reboot. So,
Uh-huh.
so that was my attempt to reboot our life in a trajectory that wasn't going to lead us into the poor farm. Um, so but Ben was by my side as I was designing things, and because Ben was my total inspiration for this. I said, "I'm not going to make some tragic T-shirt line. I'm going to do some really fabulous stuff," and I did. And Ben was there right beside me, and until he wasn't, he was going to walk in the show, um, but he didn't live. But I'm sorry. So the caring kind organization that I've been was a big resource and a big help for me. They bought all my samples so I could launch my brand, um, and they were a wealth of help and resources and things to do. Well, for Ben, they got us a really nice New York One piece where I could tell my story about how things can get really bad fast for people that are caregiving. And it was like caregivers, especially spouses, don't get paid to caregive their spouses. Did you know that?
Yes, of course.
Well, not a lot of people don't.
Well, I went through that myself.
Yeah, so you know that if unless you're independently wealthy, you are going to go broke because how are you gonna make money? So that was my dilemma. How do I make money at home? So that's why I did Venmo. Now that Ben is gone, I'm continuing the crusade to ring the alarm about Lewy body dementia, specifically Lewy body, because I know that there's a lot of things about Alzheimer and Parkinson's and all that, but not much has been said about Lewy body. And Lewy body is such a progressive disease that people need to know. That's what I believe that's what Robin Williams had.
Yes, that's right.
And a lot of other people are coming out with it too. We just had our Caring Kind Forget Me Not Gala last week, which was brilliant. And Bruce Willis, was attending, and Fern Malice was accepted an award, and because she specifically mentioned Lewy body dementia, and I commend her for that because a lot of people don't say it, and
I never heard of it until you mentioned it.
well, it's really, it's cancer is a messy, horrible, horrible, deadly disease. Lewy body is a cruel disease because you literally see your loved one change. They don't remember you. You change because you're so exhausted that you have no sense of humor. You don't eat well. You're not. you get mad easily,
Of
just
course.
a lot of stuff like that, So
Of course.
I um I had to refrain. I had to walk away from Ben sometimes because I'd get so angry with him. And I wasn't really angry at Ben. I was angry at the disease.
I know. I've been there. I understand that completely.
And you don't want to take it out on the person, but you have no choice. We had aides coming in once in a while, but Medicaid will only pay so much. So you're stuck maybe 4 hours a day. You get help for 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. The rest of the time you're on your own. I was literally walking with Ben. I was helping him. I was doing everything. I was shaving him, feeding him. I was, hospital appointments. You know how that is when you have to orchestrate somebody's life and you have to coordinate it. And it's just there was nobody else to do it. So who else was going to do it? Me. And I don't complain about it now. I mean, I'm not bitching about it. I'm just saying that's what it was.
Yeah, I understand completely. Of course, you're just being a telling the reality of that kind of an experience. And so, where are you now?
I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to get on with my life because I'm still in Ben mode. Um, and I still think Ben will be coming home, but he won't. I've been going out a lot. I've been very social. I've been getting involved with things that, will distract my attention from my sadness. And I'm extremely sad right now. I mean, I'm crying every other minute. So I'm keeping myself together for this interview. But um, it's not easy to just move on. It's not
Of
easy
course
because,
not.
especially when, I mean, this was when I say Ben was the two halves of the same coin. That's what we were. We were two halves of the same coin.
Let me ask you something. With all that you've been through, and if you had to do it all over again, would you still go down the same road?
I'd go down the same road, but I'd do it smarter. I would
No, I
do
mean,
it.
would you still have married him, knowing that it would wind up
Yes,
like that?
yes, because you know what? I found what most people will never find, and I found somebody that I absolutely love, and I'll join him again. And
You mean you found your soulmate? As
yeah,
corny as that sounds.
and you know what? He's in a different dimension. He's in a better dimension right now. He's still with me, but he's not by my side in this dimension, and that's how death is. I've been talking to a medium called Robert Litt from Light on Water. It's a Facebook group, and he's brilliant. He's a medium that I've been talking. I've communicated with Ben multiple times since his passing.
Well, that must give you some relief.
It has, and honestly, that's really what's kept me going. Is that, and I know this is Ben because I just know the way Ben talks. I know Ben how Ben would speak
Right,
and answer. This is not something somebody can make up.
right.
I Ben gets upset when I say he's not here anymore. He's yelling at me saying, "I'm here. I'm right here next to you. You just can't see me."